Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Masters of the Universe Classics, Clawful. It seems like it's been a while since we've had a true vintage Masters of the Universe villain in the line. But all of that has been corrected with the release of Clawful. The figure is packaged in the standard Masters of the Universe Classics blister card, with a look at other figures in the Classics line on the back, as well as a brand new bio for Clawful. Now, one thing I can say about Clawful is that he is straight up vintage. Now, every figure in this line is inspired by the vintage figures if they existed, but Clawful takes the cake as far as looking just like the vintage action figure, just in a new scale with a bit more added detail. The head sculpt is very reminiscent of the vintage figure, all the way down to the fluffy, thick black eyebrows. The detail is actually quite nice though, with scales on his head that go down his neck and onto his torso. Those same scales even fade onto his shoulders, and we get a nice fading of colors from red to tan as you go down the arms. Clawful's left arm features a small claw, while his right has the one giant claw he is known for. The armor is detailed to look almost like it's a mixture between being an organic shell and just armor that he's wearing, again with nice details and a good paint job. The back of the armor features the shell, with 4 present knobs where you can see that the armor can be detached. Alright guys, let's take a closer look at Clawful here. Now, articulation wise, you guys can see it's standard stuff, pretty much exactly the same. The way he's designed, we've got really nothing that's going to hinder any of the movement. The head is rotating great, the arms are moving good, forward to backward. The only thing that is a little in the way, his shell on the back does stick out just a little bit, but I mean, the arms are still moving perfectly fine. The loincloth used in the front is of the softer, more pliable plastic, so that it does not hinder the movement of the legs whatsoever. I will note that the ankles on my Clawful, unfortunately, are a bit loose. I did have a lot of problems while trying to film him with him toppling over because of the looser ankles. They're not too bad, but you know, a little looser than we'd like them to be. But overall, everything seems to be pretty great with his articulation. Of course, the figure does feature the same removable head. Same feature we've seen on pretty much every of the Classics figures so far. And one of the new features, of course, on this figure, the thing that makes him so important, is Clawful's claw. Now, if you guys remember on the vintage figure, there was actually a little lever underneath the claw that operated the opening and closing mechanism. This new claw does not have that feature, but it does still open and close. It actually has got a little bit of a snap back action feature on it, I guess you'd call it. Because when you hold it open, it actually just clicks back on its own. So it's not an actual articulation joint. You can't hold it open and hold it closed. I mean, it automatically snaps back shut after you open it. So kind of cool there. We actually get a little clicking sound, which of course means that Clawful is the first action feature to be able to speak his own name. Series of claw clicks. Yeah, that was a bad joke, I know. Alright, so another cool thing about this claw that I found interesting is that the claw is actually removable from the figure. It is a separate piece from the arm. The peg on the arm, it's very similar, I'd say. It's not exactly the same, of course. It's not a ball joint, but it's very similar in popping in and off the heads. It clicks on very solid, very firm. You don't have to worry about it falling off, but you know, give it a nice little tug, pulls right off. Now, the reason that this is detachable is because this is actually how you take off Clawful's armor if you want to do that. So take off the claw, flip it around to the back here. You can actually see those little knobs on the back of a shell. That's actually where the armor connects. So again, like I said, it's kind of like this is a hybrid between like an organic shell and just armor that he's wearing. It's like a mixture of the two because you can blatantly see that this armor just straps it on the back. So it pops right off. It's very simple to remove. And once you've got that off, you can just fold the armor down off the front. Now it is actually a little stiff, so you actually kind of have to work at it a little bit, but okay, so you have to work at it a lot. There we go. Boom. Clawful's armor has been removed. Now the cool thing here is taking off his armor actually reveals how the entire torso has that scaly sculpt. The same scaly sculpt that's coming from his head. It comes down onto his entire torso and even kind of phases onto the shoulders there and kind of disappears in the arms. It's kind of really cool actually how that worked out. Now, at first I was looking at this and I was thinking, you know, this might actually be a new buck, but the more I think about it and the more I compared, that actually is the same torso as it appears that was used on both Whiplash and Buzz-Off. But on Whiplash and Buzz-Off, they had those extra pieces that were permanently glued to the figure. But underneath, it does clearly look like it's the exact same scaling that was used on those other figures. Of course, aside from that, he is reusing the same arm over here as Buzz-Off with the same little claw. And from the waist down, he's the exact same as Whiplash and Buzz-Off both. So, good reuse of parts here, and not unlike the vintage figures. I mean, that's exactly what we would expect out of this line. And it really comes together pretty well to make a pretty cool looking Clawful action figure. Just like his vintage action figure, Clawful includes a bright green club as his weapon. It is very similar to the one that was included with Buzz-Off and the weapons rack, but notice that it is in fact different. It's a bit longer and even has different detail on the bottom. In fact, it seems to be more inspired by the detailing on the club that came with the NECA Staction. The club clips into a small claw and holds pretty firm, which works much better than the one on the vintage toy, I must say. The larger claw can hold it as well, but it doesn't work as good here. A brand new accessory that is included with Clawful is the shield. It has a clip that fits onto Clawful's wrist, although with the bumps on his arm you do have to find the right position to get it to snap on. It's made of a very solid plastic and it's detailed to look like a crab shell. The paint job does seem to be a bit toned down from the original prototype that we were shown, so it's not as bright and shiny anymore, which honestly I feel is a good thing. It seems to fit in a little bit better with the figure now, and I must say it looks pretty great on him. Alright guys, it's comparison time. Here's Clawful alongside his vintage counterpart. Standing them side by side, you can see exactly what I meant about the vintage interpretation on this new figure. And here he is with the 2000X NECA Staction. A big difference here, as the 2000X version of Clawful was much larger in stature. The color fading on his arms does seem to take its inspiration from this 2000X version of Clawful though. Clawful is a classic Masters of the Universe villain, and one that is a great addition to be added to this new line. With there being such a huge difference in appearance between his 2000X and vintage looks, there is understandably some mixed reaction to the route that was taken for the design of this particular figure. But whether you dislike the big eyebrows or you're glad that he's not large and oversized, I personally feel that this figure does still have a really great look to it. The bright red just pops out at you, and the details in the body sculpt and armor are very well done. Clawful will be available on MattyCollector.com on July 15th, and is also part of the 2011 Eternian Collectors Club subscription. Until next time.